Hey guys, today we're gonna do the test C. Now C is a little harder than the first two, but it's still not as hard as the ones that you're gonna see on F and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm asking for the smallest domain that is needed to show the entire graph. So for the entire graph, right, it's f of x. So let's write it out, sorry. So f of x equals 100 minus x squared. Now this would be an entire graph once you set them equal to each other. So x squared, right? And now you solve it. So it'll be 10. Oh, sorry. 100 equals x squared. And you square both sides. Oh my god, my handwriting's so bad. Okay. And you'll get 10 equals x plus or minus. So there you go. That's your domain, right? And this is like the smallest you can get. You can cross out b because you're not going to get 5 for either values. C, D, E, they're all giving you stuff that are wrong. So A is the answer. Okay. The graph of y equals x to x cubed plus 2 is obtained from the graph of y equals x to the x cubed. Okay. So let me give a visual demonstration. So y equals x cubed. So it's like this. This is what a y equals x cubed looks like, right? So they're saying that it went from this, right, and it transformed to this graph right here, y equals x cubed plus 2. So they're asking for what's the change that occurred, right? So for this one, it's like you have to know graph translation. So if something's inside the parenthesis of the y cubed, let's say it's x plus 2, right? This means this is a horizontal change. That means the x is going to go 2 to the left because it's going to be x equals -2 if you solve it, right? Oh, sorry. It's going to go right here because this is -2. Since this is not inside the parenthesis, this means this is a vertical shift, right? So it's going up 2. So vertical shift is basically it's going up 2 right here. So you see how this is a 0? It's hitting the origin while it's making like that turn. This one, it's gonna be making its turn on 2. So this is the answer. I think it's B. Yeah, it's B. Okay. A particle initially at 0, 3 moves along a line of slope m equals 2 to a new position x and y. If y is 5, find y if x is 5. Okay, so basically they're asking you to first use this and find the thing coordinates. So okay, so first you use the fact that you have m already, right? M is 2, so use that to find the first equation. So y equals y minus your y value is 3 equals x, which is 2, right? So your 2x minus 0, right? So this is the same thing as y minus 3 equals 2x, and you add both sides by 3, and you can get rid of this part right here, and you get y equals 2x plus 3. Now using this equation, right, you're gonna plug in the x and y values so that they gave you to find. So what does y, the question is asking, what does y equal when x is 5? So 2 times 5 plus 3, that is 13. 13 is C. Okay. Find all the asymptotes of y equals that. Okay. For this one, all you have to do is see that x is by itself, right? You have x squared on the bottom plus x plus 1. Now what you can do is you can see that the x has an exponent of 1 and the x squared has an exponent of 2, right? So this is already bottom heavy. Whenever whenever they're asking for asymptotes, right, and the thing is bottom heavy, right, like this one, it's gonna equal to 0, right? So that's why y equals 0. And it's not the other ones because you can't even factor it out. You can't factor this and take out an x from either or. That's why the answer is B. Okay, next question. This is a piecewise function, right? So they're asking that f of x equals this, okay? And they're asking for the limit of x to 2 from the right side. What does this mean? This means it's from the right side is it's like one number above the 2, like a very small number above the 2 on the right side. Okay, so basically you have to understand that since it is above 2, right, you have to use something that's not below 2, so it can't be x is less than or equal to 2 because it has to be greater than or equal to. So that's why you can eliminate the fact that you're going to be using this, the x cubed. Then you have to use that number, right, and plug it into this. So for example, they're giving you the piecewise function of x minus 2, right, and your limit is x to 2 from the right side. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna plug in a small value of 2, right? Okay, yeah, you're gonna plug in a small value right here, and what they're gonna give you, right, is 0.1, right? And you can try that again with another smaller value, even smaller. So you could try like 2.0001, right? Smaller the value, the more you'll understand like how the question's asking. Okay, so and this would give you like 0.0009, stuff like that. So this is basically leading to a 0. That's why your answer is 6. For 6 is C, 0. Your answer is C. Okay. Number 7. Another limit question, right? For this one, they're asking for the limit of -1 of x to -1, and I can tell from the top you can factor it out, right? So 3x plus 2. This is the same thing as x. Whenever you can, just factor it out just to get a good visual representation of what's happening. Otherwise, you don't have to factor, like for this example, but let's just factor it out. Okay, x plus 2 and x plus 1. This is the same thing as that, so let's delete this. Okay, now that we have that, right, we're gonna put it over x squared plus 1. Now, can we take out anything? Can we factor this number? It's not factorable. So what we do is we just plug in the -1. So -1 plus 2, let me get a different color so I can visually do this. Let's just use green. Okay, -1 plus 2, right, is 1. 1 times -1 plus -1 is, is 0. Okay, so on the top you have 0, right? Everything else is gonna be just 0. That's how it is. But let's just continue and plug it in. So -1 squared is 1. 1 plus 1 is 1. I mean 2. 0 over 2 is 0 still, right? So it's A. Your answer is A. Okay. Find a vertical asymptote. Okay. So according to my notes, right, vertical asymptote is basically the same thing as domain, right? In domain, what you do, let me see if I could write. In domain, take the denominator and set equal to 0. Now, once you do that, right? Oh, yikes. Let me just put it in a smaller font. 36 is fine. Shit. Okay. Let me try to delete some of this stuff. or whatever. Okay, you basically take the denominator and turn it to 0. That's what I'm trying to say. So in this case, right, you have in the denominator you have x squared plus 3x minus 10, right? You set that equal to 0 and you find the answers. So let's do the factoring, right? So x plus 5 and x minus 2 equals to 0, right? And you get x equals negative 5 and x equals 2. So your answers are negative 5 and 2. Oh, negative 5 and 2. Is it 8? Number 8? No, it's not. Okay, so you find these, right? And you also have to find the top value, right? So because, okay, hold up. So the top value is x equals 2, right? On top. Because x minus 2, you set that equal to 0, you get x equals 2. So now you can cross out these two, and you'll only get x equals negative 5, which is B. Okay. Alright, for number 9, you just have to understand the graph transformation. So let me just get this paper out. Let me also write something. Okay, in graphs transformation, understand how the exponents change the graph. Okay, so let me show you an example. Let me show you guys an example. So you have x to the first power, right? This is basically just a straight line up, x to the first power. Now x squared, right? You have x squared, which is going to be a upside down u, right? Now x to the third, you have a line that looks like kind of like an S. Now using these three, right, you're going to have to visually understand from now on, every time you get an odd number, you're going to get something that looks like this. And every time you get an even number, you're going to get something like that looks like this, like a U, okay? So let's play around with this. So let's say we have a negative x, right? So negative x means what? Instead of the line going this way, instead of the line going up, straight up, it's going to go down, right? This is the end behavior. So let's try negative x squared, right? First we had a u, right? Like this. That would be x squared. But this time, since it's flipped, and since it's negative, it's like this. So the end behavior is basically saying that if you have an even exponent, right? An even exponent. Bro, it's so hard to write. Okay, exponent, right? Your end behavior is going to be up, up. If you also have even function. So what am I saying here? So even exponent, right? So let's say x to the fourth power, right? This is an even function. This is even. I mean, this is an even function because it's a positive x. Also, it's an even exponent because it has a even exponent. Yeah, that was redundant. Okay, so this would look like x to the fourth would just be this. This is x to the fourth. Now let me see if I could actually x to the fourth. Am I right? Yeah, it is. So this is what an x to the fourth looks like, right? Because anything after 3 that's gonna be even, right, is gonna look like a u. Anything after that that's odd is gonna look like a s, like this, right? So with that information, we can answer this question. So basically, for this one, right, you would have to visualize x squared minus 25, and you would have to not divide, right? Not mentally divide, but just think about x squared minus 9, right? So these are two graphs. So let's draw it out. So you have x squared, right, which looks like something like this, right? And remember how this is a vertical this is a vertical shift of negative 25. So what you're gonna do is, this just means that you start at negative 25. So let's pretend like this is negative 25 right here, negative 25, right? Your shit is gonna look like something this, like this. Oh my god, that is so ugly. Okay, hold up, let me restart that. It's gonna look like something like this, right? And your second one is on negative 1, 9. So let's say this is negative 9, right? It's gonna look like something like this. Now, which one looks like that, right? You could cross out A because that shit is a slant. That's literally x to 3, right? Because that's what we discussed, and you guys are obviously paying attention, right? Okay. It can be A, it can be B, right? Now C and D, the difference between C and D is that one is a negative, right? So one is like this, which means it's a negative x squared, right? And it can be E because it's the same thing, it's a negative. So the only right answer right here is D. So for this one, you guys really have to understand the negative exponent and positive function thing, stuff like that. Okay, let's get a new paper. All right, find the derivative of this. Okay, so normally I would put it into product form, but it's actually a lot of work if you put it into product, if you use the product rule. So let's write it out. X squared over 3x squared minus 1. So what you do is you use the quotient rule. So what your quotient rule is, right? It's f prime times g minus your g prime times f. So what you over g squared. Okay, so now let's just find all of these. So the bottom, right, is your g, and the top is f. So bottom g, top f, bottom g. Okay, so let's write it out, right? So f prime, the f prime is 2x because the derivative of x squared is 2x. So 2x times the g, right? 3x squared minus 1, right? This is your first term right here. This is that minus your g prime. Well, g prime is 6x, and the 1 is 0. So 6x minus 6x times the value of f, right? Which is just x squared times x squared. Now what you do with this, right? And your g squared, so you could just put 3x squared minus 1 to the second power, right? Now let's distribute. So you have 6x to the third and multiply x squared, 2x minus 1, which is just negative 2x, minus 6x times x squared, which is x to the third, right? So your first equation, you could cross out these two because it's canceling each other out. So you have negative x squared on top, and you have, let me just erase this so it's not confusing. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, that's better. Actually, hold up. What am I even doing? Okay, yeah, and then you have this value, 3x squared minus 1 in the bottom squared. So now that you have that, which one looks like that? Which one looks like that? Negative 2x on top. This one, C. Your answer is C. Okay, for number 11, you also have to understand the graphs, how they are, right? So let me get a new paper. Okay, now for the graph, you would have to look at, first find the zeros, right? So let's write this out. You have 1/4 x minus 2 squared. Now the square is going to play a big role, and x plus 3. Step 1, right? Step 1, find all the zeros of this graph. So you have 1/4 x, right? 1/4 x equals 0, right? And you divide both sides by 1/4, and you get x equals 0, right? That's your first x. Then you have x minus 2 equals 0, which is the same thing as what? X equals 2. And then you have x minus x plus 3 equals 0, which is the same thing as x equals negative 3. So these are your these are your 3 zeros that it's supposed to touch on. So when the graphs are giving the x values, right, that's basically saying that's the places that it's going to touch. So for example, right, this is, let me get a different color. Okay, so let's say this is on negative 3. This is negative 3 right here. It's going to touch 0. This is 0 right here. And it's going to touch 2. It's going to touch 2. Now, we understand that, right, that part. But remember how I said we have to find like where it starts from and where it stops from. So for this one, to find like how the graph is gonna look, let's say it's a x squared is gonna look like a u, like I said, right? So for this one, what you should do is you multiply this x times x times x. Remember, this is the x squared, right? Because the exponent is making x squared. So you have x times x squared times x, right? And you just add these up. You just add up these values, right? And you get x to the fourth. What does this mean? This means you have a positive x4, meaning you have a positive function and an even exponent. So the end graph would look like something like this. So remember how I said that the end behavior would be up, up if it's a even function, right? So it's gonna look like something like this, right? It's gonna start from the top and it's gonna end on the top. So that's your end behavior. So you're looking for something that starts on the top and ends on the top as well. But we have a problem. We have two values, exponent of 2. What does this mean? This means that there's a bounce, right? This means there's a bounce. So x minus 2 squared. I'm just trying to break it out so you guys can understand it for yourself. So x minus 2 squared, right? Once you have that, that means this bounces on that value. If there's two values of that same thing. So let's say this is right here, right? So normally it would be like something like a u like this if it didn't have the 2 over here, but this one it would be like it bounces and it goes like up, back up. So we need a bounce on that value. So let's just graph it out, right? So it starts at 0. It starts at negative 3. So it starts from the top, goes right here, goes through the 0 because there's no bounce, and it bounces on 2. So it's gonna bounce back up. Now which one looks like this, right? Which one looks like? Is it C? 11. Yep, it's C. So look at how this graph looks, right? And you guys can see that it looks like just like C. Okay, which of these describes the behavior of the function that? Okay, at x equals 0. So x equals 0, right? When you let's just plug it in at first. So you have x squared, which is 4, right? Minus 3 times 2 is 6 plus 4, right? Over x minus 2 is 2 minus 2 is 0. So what does that mean? This means the vertical asymptote, right, is 2. Is x equals 2. Remember, the vertical asymptote is the same thing as domain, right? Vertical asymptote is the same thing as domain, and domain is the bottom denominator. So you have x minus 2 in the bottom, right, equals 0. So your vertical asymptote is 2. Which one is the right answer? This is the right answer. So let me explain why this is not correct. So A is saying that the function is continuous at x equals 2, and if it was continuous, it would not equal 0, right? A whole is basically something that you can take out from the top and the bottom, right? You can't take out the 2. The function is discontinuous everywhere is not true. if it was discontinuous everywhere, the whole equation on the bottom would just be 0, right? If you add, if the x equals 3, right, then it would not be discontinuous because they would continue. Okay, and the limit cannot be this because you have a 0 on the bottom. It can be infinity, right? Okay, now let's go on. The average cost of producing 50 items in a given total of this function. So let's write that down. So let me use a different color. Let's use green. Okay, c of x equals 2x squared minus 200x plus 100,000. All right, that's a big number. This is just a time-consuming question, right? So basically, they're asking you for the average cost of this, right? The average cost of producing 50 items, right? So your average cost is 50. So your x is 50, right? That's one information that we have. Now this is the cost function, right? So to find the average, right? Average is the same thing as writing the function you have. So the cost function over x, right? This would give you the average. This is the average, right? So let's find the average of this function right here. 0. Okay, so divided by x, right? When you divide this by x, you take out an x from this one. So you get 2x right here. And you take out an x from this one. And you get 200 right here. And you take out x from this one. You could just let's just leave it at 100,000 over x. Now let's plug in the 50 because that's our value for x. So since our x is 50, right? You have 2 times 50 is 100. 100 minus 200, which is what? Negative 100 plus, and we add this. Okay, let's do 100,000 divided by 50. 100,000 divided by 50. It's 50. So let's take out a 0, right? Because they both are divisible by 10. Okay, and you have 5 divided by 10 divided by 5, which is 2. 10. Oh shit. So you have, I forgot how to do math. 1, 2, 3, 3 zeros, so it's 2,000. So you have 2,000 plus negative 100, right? And this would give you 1,900. And there's your answer number for number 13, which is C. Number 13, C. Okay, now let's do 14. The side of a square is increasing at a rate of 2 feet per minute. Let's have a square out. Can I get a square? Can I get a shape? Shapes. Okay, this is a square, and it's increasing at a rate of 2 feet. 2 feet per minute. Okay, this is increasing at 2 feet. Find the rate of which the area is increasing. So they're asking for the dA over dt, right? The rate. This just means the rate of area. When the side is 7 feet long, and they're giving you the side right here, right? It's 7 feet long. So all the sides are 7 feet. Now for this one, you would have to have some prior knowledge, right? So you would have to know the area of a square, right? The formula for area of a square. So area of a square is A equals A, like lowercase a, cubed. Let me just double check that before I get that shit wrong. Square area formula. Yeah. No, it's squared. Yeah, I was look at me, bro. Failing. Okay. A squared. So once you have this, right, you just find dA over dt and plug in this value. This is basically dA over dt because they're saying that the area, right, of it is changing. No, it's not. It's not. They're asking right here for the big A. So let's erase this real quick. Over here, they're asking for like the big A, right? The area. This one, A, stands for like the sides. So A is like the sides. This is they're giving you they're telling you the dA dt, which is the sides. For this one, actually, I'm gonna use a different letter. So A equals, let's do t squared, right? Instead of A, let's use t squared. So this is t, the sides. They're giving you dt over dA, right? D, oh shit, dt over dt, whatever. Dt over dt, right? Which is 2 feet. So once you find the derivative of this, right, which is dA over dt equals, now t squared is just the same thing as 2t, and you're gonna get dt over dt, right? Now let's plug and chug. You have the fact that your side is 7, right? Your t is 7 feet. They're telling you the side is 7 feet, right? So you have 2 times 7, and they're giving you the dt over dt, which is 2 feet, right? Now let's just calculate that, and you're gonna get the dA over dt, which is the rate of change of the area. So you have 2 times 7, 14 times 2 is 28. 28. Okay, so we could cross out d and e because they both have pi, right? You could have a. A is the answer of 14. A. Okay. Now let's do another page. The derivative of that with respect to x. Okay, so derivative is super easy. All you do is kind of solve it with product rule. So you have f of x equals x on the outside times 3x minus 5 to the half power. So whenever you have something that is in square root, right, you just turn this into a exponent, right, to the half power. After you do that, right, then you find out the derivative of each. So let me get a different color. Now derivative of x is 1. Derivative of this is 1/2, because you bring the front to the front, exponent to the front, and keep whatever's inside, and you subtract 1 from the exponent, and you get negative 1/2, right? And multiply this by 3 on the outside, because the derivative of 3x is 3, and you multiply these two on the front, and you get 3/2, and whatever's inside, 3x minus 5, negative 1/2 power. Now let me delete this to make it less confusing. Okay, now let me bring this to the top. Alright, now that we have all the values, right, we could just cross multiply these. So you have x times this, right? Let me get a different color. So you have x times this, right, which is the same thing as, right, it's going to be 3 squared. 3x on top, right? And you can bring the 2 to the bottom. And since this has a negative exponent right here, we're going to bring it to the bottom, right? And the 2, since it's on the bottom already, it's going to stay at the bottom. So it's going to be 3x minus 5 to the half power. Same, okay. And then you have plus this value right here, 1 times this value. So you have 3x minus 5 to the half power. So this step, what you do is, let me see, hold up. For this step, what you do is to get rid of this, right? You multiply both top, hold up. I made a mistake. So this is basically on its own, right? And it's over 1. It's over 1. So when you try to add these both, you have to have the same bottom denominator so you can add them. So what you do in this case, right, is you have this equation written, right? And you just cross multiply again to have the same denominator. So for example, right, you have this is an example outside the question. Let's say you have 1/2, right? And you want to add 1/3, right? You need to have these on the same denominator. So what you do is you multiply this, the denominator for the one value to both the top and the bottom. Then you multiply the denominator for the other side to the top and bottom for this one. So for example, right, this would turn into, so 3 times 1 is 3 equals 3 times 2 is 6 plus 2 times 1 is 2, 3 times 2 is 6. So now you can solve it and you get 5 over 6. Now this is like just an example, don't get confused. All right, let's just remove this as fast as possible. And in this case, right, let's multiply the top and bottom for these. So 1 times this whole thing, right, you're just gonna get this value again, right? So I'm not gonna rewrite. I'm just gonna copy and paste. Okay, you have this value right here again because times 1. Then for now on this side, right, you're gonna get this value right here multiplied by this. So let's do this. Solve it out. So you have 3x minus 5. Let's just put it in square root form so it's less confusing. Multiplied by 3x minus 5. So to solve it, right, this 2 square roots, right, are going to give you the full form, right? So it's going to get rid of the square root. So you're going to get that, and 2 times this. So you have 2 on the outside. So this is your value, right? And the same thing, right? You're going to multiply this to 1. It's going to give you the same thing on denominator, right? So they now they both share the same denominator. So now you can add this, right? Straight up just add 3x minus 5. So this is our end value. This is our end value in the bottom, right? This is our answer. So now let's solve it, right? So you have 3x plus 2 times 3 is 6x. 2 times 5 is negative 10. So you have 3x plus 6x minus 10, right? You get 9x minus 10. 9x minus 10 over this value right here, which is 3x minus 5 to the half power, which is the same thing as square root, right? So which one looks like that? E is the only one that looks like that. You see 9x minus 10. Okay, that was good. That was a pretty difficult question, but you can definitely do it if you just follow the steps and you know what you're doing. Okay, evaluate f prime of x. Okay, let's just find the derivative of this first, right? So you have x to the 5th is 5x to the 4th plus 3x squared minus 2. That's the derivative. Now let's plug in x, right? So you have 5 times 1 to the 4th power, which is 5 times 1 still. 3 times x, 1 squared is 1 minus 2, right? This is an easy ass question. So you have 5 plus 3, 8 minus 2. You have 6. 6 is the answer, which is which is D. Which question are we on? 16. 16D. Okay, 17 we can skip, 18 we can skip, 19 we can skip. Okay. Now this one is more of like a logical question, right? The scatter diagram below shows the relationship between the average on exams prior to the final, X, and the grades on the final exam, Y, of a class of 24 students in 2003. Based on the given data, the correlation coefficient showing the relationship between the test average and the grade on the final is approximately. Okay, first of all, to understand the rule, right? Correlation coefficient cannot be negative. Let me write that. Correlation coefficient cannot be negative. So, bro, I cannot spell. This is crazy. coefficient cannot be negative, right? Now with that knowledge, right, we could kind of just cross out A and B, right? A and B. Now it's between C, D, and E. So the thing about correlation coefficient is that if it was really close to 1, right? The straighter the x is, the straighter the line is for x, which is a slope, the better the coefficient is, right? So does this look like something that has all the dots on the same line? So it could just be like this, right? If I were to graph this correlation coefficient, I'll start off at the bottom and it'll be like it'll be really bad, right? It'll look like a stock market. So it cannot be E, right? And now it's between C and D. Now it can't be C because as you can see right here, there's a bunch of dots on the same spot, right? On this spot right here, right? What does that mean? It means that there's some type of correlation. It's not like everywhere. It's if it was jumbled up everywhere, then it would probably be 0.5. That's why my only answer I could go with is D. Okay, and that's why the answer is D. Now, okay, find the instantaneous change of rate of change of the volume of a cube with respect to side x. So instantaneous change is the same. It's not the same thing, but it is basically asking for a derivative, right? And volume of cube is v equals c cubed or something like that. V equals c cubed. No, v equals a cubed. So basically, they're asking for the value, the derivative of this. V equals a cubed, right? The derivative of this question is 3a squared. And let's say a, yeah, with respect to x as the sides, right? So v equals x to a cubed. You can also write that. And you have 3x squared. Okay, I think we're done with that. Let's get a new page. Don't save there. Okay, find the slope at the curve y 4x squared. 4x squared times y equals 16. Times y equals 16 at 0.21. Okay, let's use that later. So first, let's find the derivative of this, right? So you have 4x squared times y, right, equals 16. The derivative of 4x squared is 8x, and the derivative of y by itself is just y prime, right, or dy dx. For your sake, I'll write dy dx. So with this value, right, what we do is now we cross multiply because you have to use product rule for this. For this one, you have to use product rule. And what you get is 4x squared dy dx plus these two numbers multiplied, right, which is 8x y by itself equals, and derivative of 16 is 0, right? Now that we have this, right, we just try to get dy dx on isolated. So we subtract 8x on both sides, right? That would give us 4x squared equals 8 negative 8xy, right? And last step, right, we just do, this is a 4 by the way. Alright, dy dx, I forgot to write that, dx. Now we just divide everything by 4x squared. That would get rid of this on both sides, and then we can get our final use. Okay. Oh my god, what am I doing? Okay. Stressing me out, bro. So your dy dx equals this value over 4x squared. Let me try to explain it better. This one's just asking for the dy dx by itself, right? So first you have to do the product rule to get the dy dx, right? After that, you get the dy dx on one side, isolated. So you would have to delete anything that doesn't have dy dx and move it to the other side, right? And divide it anything by anything that is connected to dy dx. That would isolate this value right here, and from right here we can plug in the points, right, which is 2 and 1. So your x is 2 and your y is 1, right? 8 times, sorry, negative 8 times 2 times 1 is negative 16, and the bottom is 4x squared over x squared. 2 squared is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So negative 16 over 16 is negative 1. Your answer is B, negative 1. B. Let me check if I'm right. Which one is it? 22? It's B. Okay. Oh man. Oh, I was struggling on this question, but I actually got it. The demand function and the cost function for x units of a product 8 is P equals 60 blah blah blah, and C of x, and this is the cost and this is the demand, right? Find a profit function. So profit function, your profits equals your revenue minus your cost, right? How much you're earning minus how much you have spent. That's your profit. So they're giving you the demand, which is P, right? Now we have to find R and C. C is already given. Now we have to find R, right? So R, revenue, is your P, your times the X. So your demand, how much people want, times how much you're selling, right? So let's do that. So you have P equals 60 over X, right? You multiply this by X, and this would give you your R right here. So let's simplify it. So it's 60x over square root x, right? Now you take this value and subtract the C. Let's see, hold up. You take this value and subtract C, and your C is, let's write it out. Hold on, let me erase this, bro. Brush, tools. Okay. Minus C, right? Which is 0.65x plus 400, right? Now you evaluate this, right? And this right here is your profit function. So your prof equals this. So next step is there. You have to find a marginal profit, right? And what does marginal mean? Marginal is the same thing as derivative, right? So what you do is you find derivative of this, right? You do dx d over dt for this value right here, and you would get, so you get 60x times x. Sorry. So let's find the derivative of this value first, right? So you have 60x, and let's use product rule, right? So it's the half power. Since it's in the bottom, it'll be negative half, right? Negative 1/2 exponent, right? Let's find the value of that first. So you have 60. Let me get a different color. You have the thing for derivative of 60x, which is 60. And then let's take out the derivative of that, which is negative x. Negative 1/2, right? Times whatever's inside, x, to the negative 3/2 multiplied by whatever's inside, which is just 1. So now let's cross multiply, right? You have 60x times negative 1/2, right? Now what's 60x times negative 1/2? It's just negative 30x, right? And let's actually bring this to the bottom, back to the bottom, right? Because to understand it better, right? So you have x right here. So with the negative, right? Negative 3/2. Now that it's in the bottom, it's just going to be 3/2, right? So whenever you have 3/2 as an exponent, or something like weird, right? The bottom goes on the outside and the top goes on the inside, right? So with that information, let's plug that in. Okay, so that's your first value, 60x plus 60 over x negative 1/2, is the same thing as square root half, right? And their last step is find the derivative of this, right? So you have minus 0.65x, so it's just minus 0.65. You just take out the x because it has derivative. Now this is your marginal profit function. So they're asking you when x equals 100, right? So x equals 100, let's plug that in. So you have negative 30 times 100 over, now 100, square root 100 to x1 and 3. Okay, plus 60 over 100 minus 0.65. So first things first, 30 times 100, negative 3,000 over, now square root of 100 is 10, right? And 10 to the third power is 1,000. So that's your first step, and it's 60 over square root of 100 is 10 minus 0.65. Now I need some more space, so let's go to the, let's copy this. And let's actually delete everything else. Excuse me. Okay, delete. And since we have that, let's just put it right here. Let's delete this as well. Okay, now negative 3,000 over 1,000 is negative 3. And 60 over 10 is 6 minus 0.65, right? So negative 3 plus 6 is 3 minus 0.65 is 235. Now, is any of the answers matching this? Yep, number 23 is A, which is this. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, if the revenue function, no, let's not do one more. Let's actually finish this, bro. Let's actually do this. Okay, if the revenue function is given by r of x equals this, and the cost function is given here, what is the break-even quantity? Now, guys, note to yourself, break-even is the same thing as profit. Break-even equals profit. It's the same thing. And remember how I said the profit function, prof equals r minus c, right? So what you do is to find the profit function is basically your r of x, which is 25x, you subtract c of x, right, which is 20x plus 500. So your break even is this. So let's solve this out. So you have 25x minus 20, which is 5x, minus 500 equals 0. Okay, set that equal to 0. Now solve it. 5x equals 500, and divide everything by 5. So you have x equals 100. Let's see if I'm right. 24 is C, 100. Yep. Okay. Alright, this one is very simple, as, so you guys can understand. Okay, so the line, let me go up. The line y minus 3 equals m times x minus 1 is parallel to this, right? So all it's asking, so if it's parallel, that means it has the same slope. Perpendicular means it has the opposite slope, and parallel means the same slope. So we just find the slope of this line right here, and we can do it. So let's write it out. 3x plus 2y minus 5 equals 0, right? So you have you try to get y on isolated, so you can subtract 3x and 5 on both sides, right? So you have 2y equals negative 3x, and you have plus 5 over, divide this by 2 over 2. There you go, your whatever this your slope, right, is right there. Your negative 3x over 2, negative 3x over 2 is a, and 25 is a. This part of the quiz requires calculator, right? Now for this, you really don't need a calculator. I'll just show you guys how to do this right now. So for whenever they're asking you what g of this is, right, what you do is you plug it in. So for example, right, the original is x squared minus x minus 2. You plug in the g3 plus h, right? So what you get is x squared, right? You have x squared, so you open up 3 plus h. You substitute whatever they're saying. Minus 3 plus h minus 2, right? This is your g3 plus h. Now we have to do that with 3 minus h, right? So g3 minus h. So let's plug it in. Let's plug it in. So you have first minus, right? This is the first. Let me put this in parentheses. Okay, this is the first value. Your second value is right here. G3 minus h is 3 minus h squared minus 3 minus h minus 2. Okay. Over 2h. Over 2h. Let's have that part at the end. Let's do this first, right? Okay, so let's evaluate this. 3h plus 8, 3 plus h squared is 9. It's 9. Oh my god, I can't write 9. Plus 6h plus h squared minus 3, because it's negative, minus h minus 2. So this is the full form of that, right? Now let's do this part. So negative on this side. 3 minus h squared is 9 plus 6h plus h squared. Sorry, this is not plus, this is minus. Almost got a big ass mistake there, bro. That would have changed the whole thing. H squared, right? Minus 3 and plus h minus 2. Now using this right here, this equation right here, we can start crossing out whatever they have. So let's cross out the ones that are canceling each other out. So 9 is canceling out because they have the same term, right? 6h minus negative 6h is the same thing as writing 6 minus negative 6, which is 12h, right? These don't cancel each other out. You have h squared minus h squared. If they have the same, if they're both even and it's a negative in the middle, right? I mean, it's a minus, right? They're gonna cancel each other out. So negative 3 plus 3, these are canceling each other out. Negative h minus h, which is negative 2h, right? So you could have that. You don't cancel that, so you have a negative 2 minus negative 2, which is 0. So you have 12h minus 2 over, and now we can add the 2h right here. You cannot forget about that 2h, right? So what we do is we can cancel out this, right? Hold up, no, that's not what we do. So you could have this simplified as 12h minus 2h is 10h over 2h is 10 divided by 2 is 5. Therefore, your answer is D, 5. Okay, for this one we need the calculator. So let me just get this on the side. Let me get this calculator right here. CI89. Slope is -1. Find x and y coordinates on the function. The slope is -1. Oh, okay, so for this question, basically, right, you have to find the derivative of this and set it equal to 0. So find derivative of this value, right? So let's do let's do 0.25 instead of the 1/4, x to the 4th power plus 0.5. Let's do 0.5. Avoid confusion. X squared plus 1. Now you're solving for x, right? So you find the derivative of that, right? So once you have this derivative, now you go to solve. So you plug in that derivative that you just found. So you have 3x plus x. Now you set that equal to -1. That's what they're asking, when the slope is -1, right? And you solve this for x. And you get the value for x, which is right there. And then you plug it back into the original function, I'm pretty sure. So you have, let's do this, times 4 to the 4th power times 1 divided by 4. No, add that plus, oh shit, this is annoyingly hard. I wish there was a way to like plug it in, but it's basically this number, right, that you got right here, and then you plug it into this original function form, and I'm pretty sure it's like approximate 0.25x to the 4th plus 0.5x squared plus 1. Solve for x, and then the line where x equals -0.682. And then you get that value. So it's approximate. Then you plug it in. You plug in that value again, right? And then you put this line right here, and you set it equal to the x you just got, and you would get the answer of 27 being A. So again, let me show you guys, right? Hold up, how do I get out of this? Quit. Okay, whatever. Clear. So first you find derivative of this, right? Because they're asking for the slope first, right? Slope of f, and then you set that equal to 0. I mean, set that equal to -1, and then you find x, right? Then you plug in that value for x back into this function, the original function, and you get the y value. And if you do all that right, you'll get that right. Okay, find out the values for f. Horizontal. Okay, so they're asking for the tangent of this where it's horizontal. So first let's find the tangent, right? Tangent line is basically derivative, right? And then let's do 3x to the 4th power minus 52x to the 3rd power plus 300x squared minus 672x plus 900. Now we solve that for x. Okay, now that we got this value, right, we could just press enter on this, go all the way to the front, right? Let me see how fast my fingers can click, and then you can use to find the zeros, right? Because that's basically what the thing is asking for. the horizontal. So let me just use this. Okay, now that we have this, right, you do comma x. That's what you're looking for, x. And you'll probably get it. So 2, 4, and 7. 2, 4, and 7. So with this knowledge, right, we can cross out 1. You can cross, you can cross out A. You can cross out D. And you can cross out E. Now it's between B and C, right? These are the values that they give you. And basically what you could do is you could plug in once and see which one is right. So let's just do this. So one of the zeros is 2, right? So you have 3 times 2 to the 4th power. Now this is just a visual explanation. 52 times 2 to the 3rd power plus 300 times 2 to the 2nd power minus 672 times 2. This is really time consuming, but it's good to check. It's 388. So that's why it can be B, right? Because you just got one of the values, which is 2 and 388. So it's C. 28 is C. Okay. 29. Now this is actually super simple. This is super simple. All you do is, instead of getting intimidated by this question, right, you just try to find what they're asking for, right, which is basically the derivative of this, right, when the value is square root of 3. Sorry, is that a mind fuck? Okay. Let's try to use this. Okay. Bro, why is this not moving? Okay. Alright, let's do derivative of this, right? And whenever, let's say it has a 5 on the outside, right? We could tackle that later. Let's do the inside first. So you write this down clean. So x to the 3rd power minus 2x, right? And close the parenthesis here. Now, since it's to the 5th, square root of 5, right? So you could have 1 over 5 as a square root. Now this is your value. So and then you set it equal to x. You do comma x because that's what you're looking for, right? Now we can plug in the f of 3 square root of 3, right? So you put the line again, and then you do x equals, and let's do square root, which is right here. No, square root of 3. We'll close that. Let's see what we get. And if you get a value like that, you just press diamond and then you press enter again, and this will give you 902. 902, which is B. Therefore 29 is B. Good. We're like cooking right now. We're cooking so hard. Okay, find the equation of the tangent line of blah blah blah. All right. So find the tangent line of this first. So let's do derivative of this, which is x to negative x. So let's do x to the negative x. Close that up. We're solving for x. Close that up again. And put the line, and x equals 1. So this is basically giving us the m, which is the slope, right? So, damn, I gotta get the MS Paint out. So this is basically saying, where do I even put this? Yeah, let's have it right here. So this is basically saying, right, that your m is 1, m equals negative 1. Now let's make the equation, right? So we have x is 1. Let's plug in x to this, right? So let's plug in the x value, which is 1 to the original, right? So you have 1 to the negative 1 power, which is just 1. So y equals 1, x equals 1. With this information, let's use this. So you do the equation, which is y minus 1 equals negative 1, x minus 1. Now let me solve this real quick. Okay, so this is your equation. So let's evaluate y minus 1 equals negative 1x plus 1, right? And you add 1 to both sides, and you'll get the equation as y equals negative 1x plus 2. Oh my god, my heart just dropped. Oh my god, my heart just dropped. Have I been talking like this the whole time? Huh? Oh fucking way, bro. I'm gonna kill myself. Okay.